Are you ready?
Let's go.
Now circling in the neutral zone.
Here's the pitch on the way. 36 yards for the win.
This.
Here comes a big chance. The shot.
Is
this the dagger?
The neutral zone.
Home run. Good.
This is as good as it gets.
Now, here's your host, two-time Paralympian, Brock Richardson.
What's going on? It's time for another edition of The Neutral Zone. I am indeed your host, Brock Richardson, and I've been told by multiple people that I almost sound like my normal self this week. So for anybody who literally endured the entire show last week, I appreciate you, and I'm getting better and I'm on the mend, thank goodness. Let me tell you what's coming up on this edition of The Neutral Zone. We are going to be joined by Canadian Junior Boccia athlete and rising star Andrew Woodrow, who recently won a gold and bronze medal at the Junior World Championships in Colombia. So that was fun conversation, very quick conversation. He was very definitive in his answers, so you'll look forward for that. I like people who are definitive in their answers. Plus, the panel will discuss why junior events are beneficial. As we're seeing more in parasports, junior events are becoming a thing that we see, and so we're going to discuss what the benefits are of that, pros and cons, and all that good stuff. I'm joined by Josh Watson and Cam Jenkins. Here come your headlines.
Neutral Zone headlines.
The NHL's Utah franchise announced this week its new name and logo. The team, formerly known as the Utah Hockey Club, will now be known as the Utah Mammoth and feature a very, very nice mammoth head logo, along with some secondary logos that are in the shape of the state, as well as in the shape of a tusk with the word Utah across it. I personally like the new logo. I think the name is interesting. I don't know why you wouldn't say mammoths as opposed to mammoth, but, you know, whatever the team decides it wants to go by, that's what it will go by. The name was selected as part of a consultation with fans, and so hopefully everyone likes what has resulted. I definitely encourage people to check it out. There's a lot of little tiny things hidden inside the mammoth logo, which are rather interesting if you can spot them.
Yeah, I agree, Josh. It's interesting, all the little details that they have. And I actually saw, I believe it was a YouTube reel or video that shows all of the little secrets or little fun things that they have in the logo. So if you're able to find that on YouTube, I highly suggest you check it out. Alexandra Hayward opened the 2025 Paracycling World Cup season with a gold in the men's C3 road race and bronze in the time trial for good measure. Also, Douglas Dean and Team Northern Ontario captured their first ever national wheelchair curling title.
Love to see success in the parasports world. We want to congratulate the Canadian men's under 18 team who went undefeated at the World Championships, and they won gold, of course, and we look forward to the men's World Championship as well, who are also currently undefeated in the event, but early days. And I know that event, the men's U18, took place a little while ago, but we just didn't have an opportunity to get there last week. So do congratulations to the U18, and best of luck to the men's World Championship, who has Sidney Crosby and Marc-Andre Fleury as some notables on their team as well. So very, very cool stuff. Now, before we move on, because we have a little bit of time today, I am just curious because I saw a little bit of mixed reviews, and I really like the name Mammoth. I liked it, and I liked the logo. I saw some people who either liked it or utterly hated it.
Is there really anything other in the social media world rather than hate and love?
Yeah, totally. So, Josh, because it was your headline and we know that you kind of liked it, Cameron, what did you think? Do you like it?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I really always enjoys those little Easter eggs of things that are hidden in the mask and their meanings. So when I listened to that, yeah, it was really exciting. Like the mountain range that's on the mask, it's in an M-shaped. So that was really interesting. The way the tusks were. Yeah, there's just a whole bunch of different Easter eggs in that mask that when you really look at it, you're like, holy cow, like, yeah, now I can see it. So, yeah, good job by the Mammoth. Agree with Josh, too. It's a team, so why wasn't it called the Mammoths, plural? But otherwise, I think it's a great mask, and they've done a really good job.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the little nuggets as well. The little M mountain range, the fact that the logo is roughly shaped in the shape of the state. The tusk is in a U shape for Utah, so lots of little things in there to catch. I also like the dark jersey with the blue and the white. I think that's really sharp, and even the white jersey with the Utah on the front of it is quite sharp as well. So as much as I'm a Leaf fan and I will always be a Leaf fan, I do really like this logo. Yeah.
And to commemorate the Utah Hockey Club, I think on their shoulder patches they're going to have UH to signify that they were the Utah Hockey Club for 1 year. So yeah, just a good job by the marketing team to create that logo.
Which, by the way, I didn't necessarily hate the Utah Hockey Club, and I like the fact that they are commemorating their quote-unquote history within a year. But I didn't love the Utah Hockey Club, and I saw people who would say, well, just if you're gonna call it that ridiculous name, just leave it as the Utah Hockey Club. And it's like, no, I kind of like this, and it's going to grow on people because that's what you're going to know them for, and it's fine. It works out, and it'll all be fine. But it certainly is better than the Utah Hockey Club, in my opinion. You want to get a hold of us on social media? Here's how you can do that.
And welcome back to the Neutral Zone broadcast booth.
Play ball!
We're set to get this ball game underway. The first pitch is brought to you by Brock Richardson's X account at Neutral Zone BR. First pitch and a strike. Hey, gang, why not strike up a chat with Claire Buchanan from the Neutral Zone? Find her on X at Neutral Zone CB. There's a swing of the chopper out to second base, right at Claire as she picks up the ball, throws it over to the first base for a routine play. Out! And fans, there's nothing routine about connecting with Cam and Josh from the Neutral Zone at Neutral Zone Cam J and at J Watson 200. And the Neutral Zone is brought to you by the Ontario Para Network. Connect with them at ON Para Network. Follow them online at onpara.ca. Now that's a winning combination.
I am truly excited to welcome one of Canada's fastest up-and-comers in the sport of boccia. Andrew is coming off a World Championships for juniors, winning a bronze in individual and a gold in pairs play. Andrew, welcome to the show. Nice to have you.
Thanks for having me.
So can you maybe start off by telling us how you became involved in the sport of boccia?
I became involved in boccia through Easter Seals NL. I went there and then I learned about boccia. There's a boccia program. I started going there. Then I started practicing boccia. Then I went to compete nationally, and then I got internationally.
Okay, you mentioned that you're competing internationally now, and you were at World Championships recently. I'm wondering, as a young athlete, what expectations did you have heading into that event?
When I headed there, my expectations was to learn something and do my best and see where I stand up against the competition.
And can you talk to us a little bit about your individual portion of the tournament? Like, what was working so well for you during the event that ultimately led you to bring home the bronze medal?
What was working for me well during the individual part was I was able to do my best and adapt well to the different conditions I had to compete in.
Now, you also competed in pairs play alongside a Brazilian partner, and you guys came home with a gold medal, which is fabulous. Can you explain to us a bit about how it was that you ended up partnered with somebody from Brazil?
I ended up partnered with someone from Brazil since I was the only Canadian BC4, and there was in since there are 6 players, they could have 3 pairs, so that made it able for me to have a pair to play with.
And what do you think ultimately led to your success with your partner?
What led to our success was we were quickly able to figure out a way to communicate, because since we both didn't speak the same language, we had to figure out a way to communicate. So we used hand signals to do it.
That's pretty smart. What was the most challenging part about the whole experience for you at World Championships?
I'd say the most challenging part was probably trying to figure out how to communicate, because I had to figure out a way, since we both spoke different languages. If we had to find a way, otherwise we wouldn't be able to communicate, which meant it was a big challenge. So we figured out how to overcome that challenge.
And aside from winning a gold and a bronze, what was the most exciting part about the entire experience?
The most exciting part was getting to see such an amazing event to test myself.
And how valuable do you find the experience when it comes to shaping you for your future in the sport?
I found it really valuable as it helped me learn new things and what to focus on to develop more skills for future competition.
And can you maybe let our listeners know what's next for you in your journey with boccia?
What's next for me is the Newfoundland Provincials in boccia and the Canadian Championships, and hopefully another international level tournament.
Andrew, can you talk to me a little bit? Caught, you said at one of the questions, you said you had to adapt to the different conditions. Can you elaborate a little bit on what the different conditions for you were that you had to overcome?
The different conditions included, like, the flooring there was a lot different than what I was used to. The temperature there was much different, and I've never been on travel that long to get that far.
Any troubles with travel? Because I know us in the disability community, we always like, goodness, we got to travel so far. Did you have any troubles traveling this time?
No, not really.
That's good news when you don't have any trouble. You mentioned that Newfoundland's having their provincials. What do you hope to take from your international event and bring it to provincials and help you carry over that great success you just had?
I plan to play like I did there by doing my best, and since I've developed my skills since then and my way of thinking about what's the best shot, I hope to be able to take that over there to bring that knowledge to help me perform better.
Fantastic. Andrew, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview. We greatly appreciate it, and congratulations on your success, and we look forward to having you again on the program to talk about future success, because I know it will happen. That was Andrew Woodrow talking to us a little bit about his beginnings of his career in boccia. Before we get into what is scheduled on the docket for our conversations in this last segment, I want to bring up something that took place in the para sports world, and that is that the cruiser sports, the para sports community, friends, family, acquaintances, everybody lost somebody recently, and that's Matt Simpson, who played para ice hockey, was involved with some minor league hockey teams as well. He suffered some complications, and I'll leave it at that. We send out our condolences to the family. Josh, I know that you have had some experiences with Matt. I want to get both of your thoughts on Matt, if you have any. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, Matt was a teammate of mine on the Cruiser Sports Red Dogs para ice hockey team. He was a great young player, always gave me his best effort when we were on the ice together, was always trying to help the team improve, always trying to make the team better in whatever way he could. When it came time for the Cruisers Cup hockey tournament, Matt would play, but he would also lend his expertise as a timekeeper and scorekeeper to the event as well. He was heavily involved in that. I know of at least 2 Junior A hockey teams that he was a timekeeper for, one being the Georgetown Raiders and one being the Oakville Blades, both of the Ontario Junior Hockey League. They're sort of one step below the OHL, if you will. Matt was also involved in grassroots hockey, doing some timekeeping for a local men's league near his home. Just an all-around really, really great guy. And I know I can speak for a number of us when I say that we are quite shocked and quite saddened that he is gone. The world is a different place today.
Yeah, it's it's sad when somebody passes away so young. Matt, I remember him, and I can't recall if we were on the same team, but I do remember, certain times like going to the Great White North. I think it was in Sudbury, in that hockey bus, and playing for only a half an hour. He was on that team, and I remember he brought some movies. We watched Red Tails. Why I remember that, I have no clue, but I remember that. And yeah, just him having a positive attitude. He was a nice guy, and he was good at taking a joke as well, which a lot of people aren't, but he was always good at taking a joke. And I do remember seeing him coming out of the box for timekeeping, because he certainly did that and seemed to love it. And I just remember he had a love of the Toronto Blue Jays as well. So he went with a friend of ours who we call Scotty Dog, and I went to quite a few Jays games too, because he had a love for the Blue Jays. So it's gone way too soon. It's a bit shocking for the Cruisers community, and may he rest in peace.
So my time with Matt was relatively short, but there's a story that I will share with the group, and it's very lighthearted regarding Matt. And if you knew Matt, you would understand where this is coming from. And I used to referee house league wheelchair basketball, and he would be one of the guys that would playfully, razz me a little bit, from time to time. And one day, Matt came over to me, and he tapped me on the shoulder, and he goes, "Thanks for reffing today. You did a really good job." And then he looks at me straight in the face, and he says, "What I don't understand is how you can be visually impaired and call a pretty good game of a wheelchair basketball game." And I will forever remember that from Matt. And right away, he bursted out in laughter as soon as he said it. And that's something that I will never forget. It's something that I learned, Matt's sense of humor quite quickly, because he just came out with it just like that. Relatively recently, I saw Matt at one of the junior hockey games that Josh was talking about. And he came over, and we shared a little bit of a acknowledge, the head nod of, "I know you're there." And Brett was doing the PA announcing for that event at that time, and it was fun. But Matt always wanted to give his time. He always wanted to volunteer and do things, and that's something that I will very, very much respect for what Matt did, and condolences to his family. My understanding is that he was an only child, and so that is tough in and of itself. When you lose your only child, and parents are not supposed to bury their children, and that's a reality for his mother and father that no one should ever have to go through. So my sincerest of condolences to the family, the friends, the acquaintances, everybody that's feeling it. And I have a feeling that the funeral and visitation, which is happening later on this week, if you're looking at it at the beginning of the week, as we release it, it's happening. The visitation is happening Tuesday, and then the funeral is happening Wednesday. And I have a feeling it's going to be well attended, and people are going to pay their respect for Matt, as they should. It's tough to move on from a topic like that, but we're going to do that. And we had a wonderful conversation with Andrew. It was As I mentioned, it was very definitive, very, very concise, and we got the information we needed. Quick thoughts from both of you. Start with Cameron on this one.
It's great that he's risen the ladder of the boccia community rather quickly by the sounds of it, and sounds like he's going to have a bright future ahead of him in the game of boccia.
Cameron, I'm not hearing you.
My mic's on.
Heard you.
Oh,
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
We hear you. I can hear Cameron. Can you hear us?
Just a second here. I
Give
can't
me a
seem
wave
to
if
hear
you
you
can hear
guys.
me.
Hold on. I don't know why. Hey Google, set a timer for 38 minutes. So there is no easy way to stop listening. There's no easy way to segue from a conversation such as the one we just had about Matt into this conversation, but we're going to do our best and try. Thoughts on the interview we just had with Andrew Goodrow? Start with Cameron on this one.
Yeah, it seems like he's had a lot of success in boccia so far, rising up through the ranks. So it's going to be interesting to follow his journey from here. And, I'm sure he's going to be doing well into the future.
Yeah, much like some of the other young boccia athletes we've had on the program, I think that Andrew does have a bright future. And I appreciated the fact that he was very decisive and very quick with his answers. That was awesome. And I'm sure as time goes on, he's going to get more and more comfortable doing interviews like this, and we're just going to get even more and more information out of him in the future. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I truly don't necessarily think Andrew expected the result that he got at the Junior Worlds. The thing that I would like to give a ton of kudos for is just the fact that he and a Brazilian partner won gold. Like, talk about just, you come off the plane, you're doing individual, you win bronze, and then they say, okay, you're going to be thrown with a Brazilian player who, oh, by the way, doesn't speak the same language as you, but here you go. And that's just where it is. So credit to both of those athletes for doing what they did. Let's talk a little bit more in depth about junior nationals and our junior world championships, and what that does. We're seeing that creep up more and more into parasports. Both of your thoughts on just where parasports are now with being able to bring junior athletes to these real high-profile events. Let's start with Josh on this one.
I think it's a great idea. I think the sooner you can expose an athlete to international competition, get them used to the travel, get them used to the timing and the delays, which inevitably happen in these things, and just get them used to some of the adversities that are going to happen. I think it's a great thing. I think you end up with a much more rounded athlete, and you end up with somebody who, when they get to the sort of regular world championships, if you will, the adult world championships, I guess, you end up then with an athlete that's better prepared and hopefully is able to take that knowledge that they've learned in the junior and transfer it to their senior events, and by extension have great success. So I hope it continues. I would love to see more juniors involved so that more teams are able to actually field a singles and a doubles, for example. But overall, I think junior world events are a great idea.
Yeah, so do I. I think they give kind of lifelong lessons when you're for any championship, but especially for juniors, because they're just at that point in life where they're starting to learn about life. So being on time, kind of following some rules, learning how to travel, learning how to, meet other people. There's so many benefits to being able to have this type of championship. And and even more so when it's international and you're meeting other people from different countries and different cultures. I think it's all great because then you start to learn about other cultures and realize, it's not just about the family that's around you or the town that you live in. You start to have hopefully a more of a world view of what's going on in life. So I personally, as long as they don't have, because I think a lot of junior people, at least I remember when I was a junior, being very homesick. As long as you're not homesick and you take advantage of that opportunity, I think it's great.
I think it's great too. And this is a good thing for sports in general, but particularly parasports. I think it does get people set up in the right direction and the understanding of what it is going to be like. And Cameron, you spoke about this just now, talking about the travel. People don't understand what traveling's like until you do it. And until you do it as a person with a disability, that's another side to this. The one sort of scenario that I look at and I think, is there a downside? And for me, the downside I look at is, can you look at your success at the junior level and say, well, I'm just going to carry this in to the world stage? Are you at risk, Cameron, if you do that, to getting humbled in a sense? Like if you go into something saying, well, I just won gold and bronze, and I'm not using Andrew as an example. I'm just saying in general, if you go to a junior event and you win gold and bronze, can you run the risk of saying to yourself, I've done this before, and so you run the risk of, I'm going to go to the regular world championships as was articulated and have that success? Can you run that risk, Cameron? Your thoughts?
Yeah, there's always the risk of it. I think it really depends on the individual and their attitude, for lack of a better way to say it. If they can win there thinking they can win, I think you need to have that confidence that you can do it. But sometimes when you go to the next level, the competition is just so much better. And then, you get beat. It really depends on the individual. Are they cocky going into it? And then they have to eat a piece of humble pie. And it's how they react to it after that. Once they eat the piece of humble pie, saying, well, you're not the best. Like, you got to do some other things here to be better so you can get back up or get to that level at the senior level or whatever you call that level. But then, there might be other people that get destroyed and, their confidence shakes so much. So, like a lot of things in life, it's up to the individual to frame it however they need to, so they see it as a lesson, so they can start moving forward and to get better.
Yeah, I agree with Cameron. It's very, very good to have success when you're young and to build that confidence. But I think it's incumbent upon the coach and the parents to remind a young athlete that, yeah, you did really well here and you won your gold medal and you won a bronze medal. But just remember, the next level up is harder. And so if you don't have that same success right away, that's okay. It's a chance to learn and it's a chance to grow. It's when, as Cameron mentioned, you go in and you think, well, I'm the king of the world and I'm just going to roll over everything. Well, that's maybe not going to happen. You might be that good, and if you are, that's great. But if you're not, how can you take that and learn from it and not be hurt by it, either mentally or possibly physically?
Yeah, agreed. For me, the thing that also came to mind, and I don't know if this is a downside, but I'm not really sure where else to put this in the conversation. For me, it's I feel like the parasports community may be a bit late to the game in getting these world championships going. Is some of it a numbers game? Maybe. But I feel like that our community is a bit late to the party on the international stage when you say, let's bring these athletes to the world stage. Let's do this so that they understand what it is like to do this, Josh. And I think it's great now that it's happening, but I think we're coming into this a little bit too late in some sports in the para world.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I personally haven't been in the bocce world, but I have been in the para track and field, the para athletics world. And I know there you have young able-bodied athletes that are competing for Canada under 18 and in university and then going on to the national team. And I think you're right. It is a numbers game. There just aren't as many young athletes in the para world that are able to do that, because I know for para athletics, I'm not aware of any junior championships of any sort. So it would be nice if there was something like that. But I think because of numbers and because of parents then needing to be involved in getting the athletes where they need to go, I think those are probably some of the stumbling blocks that you're going to find in regards to that. And I mean, I'd be curious your thoughts, because you were a young bocce athlete and you did have success early, so you can probably speak to both of these topics.
I will, Cameron.
When the time is right.
Any thoughts for you on this regard as to whether you feel that the para community is late to the party? And I'll even add some context, and if you guys can think of any others, I would be happy to add it. The sport that comes to my mind is doing a good job with the junior programs is wheelchair basketball, and sending junior teams to this type of thing. I don't know that off the top of my mind I can think of another one that consistently says we're going to send junior teams. So the core question, Cameron, is para sports a little bit late to the party?
Yeah, I would think maybe they are a little bit late to the party, but I was asking myself while you gentlemen were talking, why might that be as far as junior? And, we're talking people with disabilities and young kids with disabilities. So I'm wondering, is it the parents not wanting them to go? Because you're developing a lot when you're a small kid too, and when you're growing up. So I wonder, how much of that is a family decision, or it has been in the past, and maybe mindsets are changing. Because, when your child has a disability and they kind of find it hard to, live, sending them off on a championship might be a bit difficult. I wonder if that's one of the reasons why. For junior as well, depending on where it is, maybe families can't afford it. How much the organization, it's all about the almighty dollar with me. So are the programs paying for it, or is it the family that has to pay for them to go to Paris or go to these competitions? And, with the way the world is now and how things are pricey, expensive, maybe that's another reason for it, as to a couple of barriers to get this started sooner. And they're just questions I have, and I don't think anyone really has any factual answers, but that's kind of what I think about off the top of my head.
Well, I have a response.
Of course you do.
And that is that you are the voice of reason on this panel. Because I think, for me anyway, I don't want to put words in Josh's mouth, but I didn't really think about the fact of parents having that moment of oh crap, my child has a disability. What is life like? Just, and pardon the expression, but just existing, day to day. Forget sports, forget fun, forget, like, we just have to manage Monday through Friday, let alone then, oh, let's go to Colombia and do a world championship. There are a lot of parents and the individuals themselves that have to sit and say, who am I, what am I, how am I? And so that, I honestly think, beyond the numbers game, is the real core thing beyond this, Josh, is that we all have to stop and think, yeah, but there's life before sports.
Yeah, I absolutely think that is very true. I don't want to accuse parents of anything, particularly not of being helicopter parents, but I do know that even today, and it was worse when Cameron and I were children, people didn't understand that people with disabilities can travel. So the idea of, oh, I'm going to take my child with CP or my child with spina bifida, put them on a plane and send them to a foreign country, people just wouldn't be able to wrap their heads around that. And so I think there's that involved. There's the need for parents to understand that it is safe and it is okay for their children to do this, and that their children are capable of it. I think very often we have parents who, through no fault of their own, don't know what their child is capable of and are, to a degree, afraid to let them fly, so to speak. And by fly, I mean just try things, not just literally flying somewhere. So I think that does play a factor, but I would hope as time and technology advance that we start to change those attitudes, because I think it's a way for a child to become a much more rounded and well-rounded individual.
Yeah, and for me personally, I can only go based off my experiences, and a lot of my surgeries and such were probably before I was the age of 16. And I believe I've had around 30 surgeries approximately. So your body is developing when you're a junior as well. So like when you're developing your body, plus you have a disability on top of that, like what do you have to do in order to stabilize it or, to get through those age, because you're growing and things change. So like how much is that a factor as well, and being able to go to a junior championships, because maybe there's just something medically involved that you can't stray too far when you're growing up as a kid. So
yeah, I'm gonna circle back to something Josh posed a little while ago, and he asked, what it would have been like for me to be a part of a junior international event. And in case you're coming to the neutral zone for the first time or in recently and have no idea who I am and what I am talking to you, I got to compete on the world stage for 7 consecutive years, beginning as a young 17-year-old. And it could have started as early as 16. My parents decided when I was starting high school that, maybe the national team wasn't a good idea at that point. So unbeknownst to me, until I was in my mid-20s, my parents actually vetoed the first year that I was going to be welcomed onto the national program. And the head coach, who we've had on the program, Mario DeLille from Boccia Canada, he called me up when I was 16 years old, and he said, "You had a great national championships. We like what we saw from you, but we're not going to be bringing you this year to our event." Fast forward many, many years later, I learned that my parents were actually the veto of that card. And I'm glad they didn't tell me at the time, because I probably would have been very angry, very hot-headed, very all of those things. So I'm glad they didn't tell me at the time. But looking back at it, I know exactly why they did what they did, because I wasn't ready. I was terrified to go to high school. I was a bit of a sheltered, not sheltered in the sense of like my parents were sheltering me, but just sheltered in life experiences, sheltered in situations that I had no idea what to do. And high school was one of those things. And so for me, the idea of doing a junior international event would have been like, wow, like that. I mean, what a change that would have been to be younger and do that and go through the trials and tribulations that I ultimately went through for 7 years. Like, wow, what a difference that would be. And it's just the way life goes. And I mean, for me, my first event ever was BC Place World Championships, which is one of the largest indoor stadiums in Canada, and we were a 12-court spot, and when you walked into the venue, it was like someone just basically spit a bocce floor in the middle of BC Place and said, "There's your event." And I mean, I was eyes wide open for that entire event. And so just to have that experience, but there is got to be that stopgap sometimes where parents have to be parents, to be perfectly honest, and understand what is good for their child. And I think in that moment for me, and probably for others, Cameron, sometimes you got to be that person that says, no, now's not the right time. And also keeping it from them and and letting the coach just go through the motions of, no, I'm sorry you didn't make it, versus making them angry. And then, why did you stop me from being successful? And all those nasty things you can say to your parents at times.
Yeah, and that's just different parenting styles, I think, when it comes to it. Even at that age, I think I would want to be told by my parents, hey, we're not sending you because we don't feel you're ready for it, or we feel you need to get ready for school because that's going to be a huge change. But like what they did wasn't necessarily wrong either, because they know you best, and everyone has different parenting styles. So for me to say one way is right and one way is wrong is not the way to do it, because there's just different styles. So they did what they thought was best for you, and I think most parents do that. Sometimes they figure out, okay, well, maybe that wasn't the best way to parent you, or sometimes they're like, yeah, no, that was the best thing to do for my child. But yeah, like once you're a parent, like you're just trying to do what's best for your child. And you're going to make mistakes along the way, and that's it. But they have your best interest in mind, even though it might not work out that way always.
And I was just going to say, you took the words right out of my mouth. You have to know that you're going to make mistakes, and you have to understand, look, I'm going to make mistakes, and I'm here to tell you, had my parents told me at, 16, 17 that I wasn't going to Rio at the time, and I could have gone to a third Paralympics probably. And I mean, looking back on it, it would have been great. It would have been lovely, but no, it wasn't in the cards. Josh, I'm sure you have some comments. I've been watching you nod as we've talked here through this portion of the conversation.
Yeah, it's very difficult as a parent to make those kind of decisions. You're going to be right sometimes, you're going to be wrong sometimes. I know my parents from a young age decided that they were going to make me a part of decisions that were made on my behalf, but that's not for everybody. And so if they had been presented with the situation your parents were presented in, I don't know what they would have done. I think they probably would have done the same thing, but you also were coming at it as a 16-year-old, and we all know as teenagers, we all start to assert our independence, and we all start to think that we know best for ourselves, and it's part of growing up. But you absolutely can wind up having difficult and heated conversations with your parents when you're a teenager, just because you do sometimes feel stifled and sometimes feel like, well, you don't want me to have any fun. And so I can totally understand why your parents might just say, you know what, coach, we're going to let you wear this one.
Yeah. And I mean, listen, he wore it well. He told me that I didn't make the team, and I respected him at that time, obviously, and respected the decisions. And I'm pretty sure I went back to playing NHL 17 or whatever the heck the year was at that point. And I pew, pew, pew. Did what I had to do and went on about my day. And my parents came and put their hand on my shoulder and they said, "We're sorry, son, that you didn't make the team." And I was just like, "It's fine. I'm playing NHL right now. I'm whatever. I'm
good.
I'll make it next year." And then finding out, 6-7 years later, even longer than that, they made the decision. Yeah, I can step back and realize you made the right decision for.
Did you ask them
for the time?
When you found out that they said no, and they gave you those loving hugs saying, "Oh, it's okay, dear."
Yeah, it actually, you know what? It actually just came up at a family gathering. We were talking about another young athlete who, again, had their parent, play the trump card. And my dad looked at me dead in the face and was like, "We did that to you, right?" And I'm like, "Pardon?" Like, it was literally like that moment of like, "You want to try that again? You did what to me?"
Way to go, Ed.
Remember in 2006 when you thought you didn't make the national team? I'm like, "Yes, father."
Yeah.
He's like, "Well, you did." And I was like, "What?"
Surprise.
And it went from there, and we've had a laugh. But I can honestly sit here on this podcast and tell you that if they told me at the age of 16 that I could have made the team and didn't because of their decision, it would have been real problem. So my parents, even though I know they will not listen to this podcast, but I can honestly say that my parents made the right decision in the grand scheme of my life and my situation that we went through. But yeah, there's a little.
We'll have to tell them someday.
Shout out to Brock.
Brock admitted you were right.
Shout out to Brock's mom and dad.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they were more.
Yes, indeed.
I think they were more vindicated that I actually was mad, because they looked at each other and were like, "See, that's why we didn't tell him at 16, because he's mad now at whatever I was
30
at that,
something
30, 31, whatever it was. It was a couple of years ago. And I remember my wife just looking at me and was like, "Oh God, am I going to have to put out the fire of this later?" And I was like, no, we're good. We're okay. It just sometimes people, because I wasn't an athlete at that time, but sometimes people, know their child best. And I think, parents need more credit than they do. And I also got my vindication a number of years later when I won provincial championships in 2021. And my dad had no desire to take me to nationals that year. And I went by him and I said, "You got no bleeping choice now, boss. I just won the event." So there you go. We both had our moments.
You were cocky.
There's my family grievance for this episode of the Neutral Zone. Speaking of grievances, last when we recorded this podcast, I believe the Toronto Maple Leafs were still playing the Ottawa Senators, getting close to becoming victorious against the Ottawa Senators. Fast forward 1 week, we have played 4 games against the Panthers. We started the series 2-0. Toronto won their 2 games on home ice, and Florida held serve and won 2 games on their home ice. I am going to present this in this way. If I had now, let's take away what's happened. I just want a specific answer to this specific question. If I had said to both of you, Toronto, before the series started, Toronto would take their 2 games at home, Florida would take their 2 games at their home, we'd be 2-2. What would you both say as Leaf fans, not knowing what took place in the series? Let's start with Cameron.
I'd be nervous because I have PTSD as a Leafs fan for the past 9 years. It's always nice to be ahead in the series. So 3-0, like the last series, was a little bit easier to deal with that, knowing that we only need to win and they need to win 4 in Ottawa. And then, I started to get PTSD again when the Ottawa won 2 in a row. So, but they are 2-2, and that means that it's going to at least 6 games. And that's the furthest that this cast of clowns have gone over the past 9 years. So that's a positive. They played well. So, I think you have to be pretty happy, but of course I'm just nervous because I have Leafs PTSD over the past 9 years.
I think if you had said to me that they would get to the second round and that they would play the defending Stanley Cup champions and have them at 2-2, I would have to grudgingly be satisfied, because it's not easy. This is a team that that won the Stanley Cup last year and has had very little change since then. So I think overall I'd be satisfied. I don't think I would say I would be happy.
Wow. I am going to be the only one that would absolutely definitively tell you, if knowing nothing about how the games went after 4, I would be perfectly fine. Because you know what? If we win both of our games on home ice, we win the series anyway. So it doesn't matter. Yes, is there some concerns about how they're playing, taking 4 penalties in a period? Yeah, we could dissect that and look at this and go, what's going on here? Can I look at Stollards and say, please come back for game 5. Please come back for game 5. Yes, but I don't think you can put the fault of Joseph Woll either. I think that the couple of goals that Joseph Woll surrendered in game 4, he was never going to save that second one anyway, unless he was Superman. So overall, I think I'm satisfied. I will share in Cameron's PTSD if they go down Wednesday night and it turns to 3-2 for Florida. That then scares me. Then I'm jumping on the PTSD train, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm probably gonna act like Steve Dangle does on his lovely videos that he releases. It's not going to be good. But right now, am I panicked? No. Would I like to see some things, change? So that kind of thing? Yeah. I mean, you cannot give up four power plays in one period plus a bit. Like, you can't do that. And they killed off 3 and almost killed off the 4th one. And the 4th one was one of those ones where it's an obvious call where the puck goes over the glass. The referee's hands are tied at that point. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Quickly from both of you, I just want to get thoughts on the other Canadian teams, talking about Edmonton and Winnipeg. Thoughts there from both of you? Start with Josh.
So thoughts on the other 2 teams. Winnipeg, I think, has the toughest road of the 3 at the moment. Dallas is a very strong team. They've played it that way. So I would love to see Winnipeg succeed, because outside of Toronto, I think they are probably the most interesting team for me to watch. But I don't think they're going to do it. As far as Edmonton seems to be gaining form finally. They seem to be going up against their opponent, and they seem to be getting the success that they need. It was interesting to see them turn to Calvin Pickard at the end of in the last series and ride him until the middle of this series, when he is apparently now out day to day with an injury. But you've got Stuart Skinner. He's proven himself in the past, so I think they have a legitimate shot. And just briefly circling back to Toronto for 1 second, I never thought going into this series that they were going to do it in less than 6 or 7 games. So am I happy that they've gone down 2-2? No, but at the same time, I kind of expected it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. As far as the Winnipeg series, it's going to be Rantanen 4, Winnipeg 2 after the series is over. 4 games to 2 games. Man, that ran, and he's just going off. I'm sure Colorado, who's now out, is wishing they never traded the boy. Edmonton, hopefully they win against Vegas, but I don't know how much that game that they just lost with 0.4 seconds left on the clock. I don't know how much that's going to turn the tide, if at all, for that series. So that's a really interesting series to keep tabs on too. And yeah, with the Leafs, they're 2-2, so I think it's pretty much close to a got-to-win game on Wednesday. And what's with the schedule makers? Like, it's usually you play a night off and then you play again. Now we got to wait 2 more days. Like, do they not know Leaf fans have PTSD? They shouldn't have, 2 off days and then, another basically whole day because they don't play till the nighttime until, 7 o'clock. What are you doing? I'm not happy with that, so...
At least they're not down 3-2 or 3-1 at the time.
100%. I'm glad that it's 2-2. I'd rather it be 2-2 than, down 3-0 or 3-1 or anything like that. But I just think it's a must win because I really thought Toronto would take a game out of Florida. I really thought they would, and they just they stunk hockey pucks on game 4. And Wall was the only one that showed up. He played great, I thought, even with a couple goals that he let in. It was the rest of the team that let Wall down. So they've got to pick up, I don't know, their skates, their hockey sticks. The Leafs just got to go back to good defensive hockey because that was a disgusting effort on Game 4 for them. So I hope they show up for Game 5.
All I will say on this, on the Leafs, and I think everyone will understand where I'm going with this, is I saw the greatest meme, real video, not a meme, a real video where the individual was calling a missing persons hotline, and he had a Leaf jersey on, and he said, "Yeah, I just want to report a missing person." And the guy goes, "What's his name?" And he goes, "Austin Matthews." And he goes, "When's the last time you've seen him?" Game 82 of the regular season. What was he wearing? Allegedly a Leaf jersey. And I think that is the honest thing where we are now. We're getting depth from other players, but you need your big boys who are making big money to do big things. The other thing I'll say, the media makes me laugh, and I know we're all in the media here doing this, but the silliest thing I saw after the LA Edmonton series was this big display on Sportsnet on all their social medias of Calvin Pickard going to start game 1 of the second round. And I went, no, duh. Calvin Pickard is going to start the second round because he's the only reason they got out of the first round in the first place. So I don't get the media why there's this big, build up of the obvious, but that's where we are. How many Canadian teams, by the time this second round is over, how many Canadian teams survive? Cameron?
2.
There's 3 left.
Yep, 2.
So we know. Yeah.
I agree with Cameron, 2. It's going to be Winnipeg and Toronto. Or sorry, it's going to be Edmonton and
I was going to be like,
Toronto.
I think I disagree with you.
Wow.
But no, we don't disagree. I think it's going to be Edmonton and Toronto as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a little bit of a contrarian, and I'm going to say that it will be all 3 when it's done.
What?
We're going to see Winnipeg, Edmonton, and Toronto go through to the next round. And by next Tuesday, when you hear my voice, I could be dead wrong. So we'll see where this goes. Thank God we don't have pickled onions on the line anymore, as our old friend Brett Wills had to endure once over a bet. So I'm not putting any money or any pickled onions on the line. That is the end of our
program. In a bag.
No thanks. No. You'd have to go back a few episodes for that discussion. I think we were doing the audio version at that point, and Mark Aflalo, who still is our technical producer, he was babysitting us, as he would say, and he goes, "Did you guys really just talk about a pickled onion for 8 minutes?" and we're like, "Yep, we did." And that's what we did. There you go, Mark. We talked about it again for a couple of minutes. That is the end of our program for this week. I would like to thank my fabulous co-hosts Cam Jenkins and Josh Watson. I'd also like to thank our technical producer, Mark Aflalo. Stay tuned for next week because you never know what happens when you enter the neutral zone. Be safe, be well.